The NFC South has struggled in recent years, but it looks to have a few teams make a strong run in the conference. This is a unique division as all four teams have a different starting quarterback from the previous year. Preseason rankings certainly look much different than they did last year. But before we dive into that, Brendan, how are we doing?
Yep, I'm here. Relax, I'm here, okay? I'm doing good. Ready to go to the beach with you this weekend. And I think this is a very interesting division here, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah. Let's get after it. If you're watching, make sure to comment your pick to win the NFC South and tell us which team you think is going to hit over or under. Brendan, the New Orleans Saints are 9.5, sitting at 9.5 wins for most books. Some 9, some 10, but 9.5. They're plus 115 to win their division, and they have a new quarterback this year in Derek Carr. Do you think the Saints go over or under 9.5 wins? Tell me why.
I do indeed think that they go over because I think Derek Carr's a really good quarterback, and he was put in a hard spot with the Raiders, which is the way they were running their offense. And I truly do believe that with Olave, Thomas, Kamara, if he plays, Jamal Williams, who's the new running back they got?
Guy from TCU, Kendrick Miller, I think.
Yeah, Kendra Miller. I think that Juwan Johnson at tight end, I think Derek Carr is going to be able to deal over there with the Saints. Their defense is still very good. And they play a light schedule. So does everyone in this division, which makes sense because they all play each other twice. But, I'm looking at the schedule and I'm just like, they don't play the Chiefs. They don't play the Bills. They don't play the Chargers, like all those really good teams. They're all in the AFC anyway. They don't play the Eagles. So there's plenty of winnable games here.
You're talking about this division and the schedule. So the Falcons actually have for projected strength of schedule, they have the dead last, meaning they have the easiest projected strength of schedule. And then the Saints have the 31st, meaning they have the second easiest projected strength of schedule. So you aren't kidding. It's definitely a light road ahead for some of these teams. I
didn't even look that up. It was right off the dome. And I did say the Falcons before we started the show as well.
Yeah, so full disclaimer here, I'm a Falcons fan. I hate the Saints. So I'm not going to say much on them because I think they go under. I think the Falcons beat them twice, and I'm actually really high on the Falcons this year. But I'll stick with the Saints. If I'm gonna play nice, I'm gonna talk about what is it going to take for the Saints to cover, and I think it's going to be like consistent play from Derek Carr. Obviously, they signed him for a reason. They need him to be better than Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston and what those guys were last year, which he can be. But truth be told, I'm not a big believer in Derek Carr. I know you are. He had one good year where he, was like top 10 and some of the big statistics, but other than that, he's always been, bottom third almost. And so I'm not a believer in Derek Carr, dude. He's not for me. I don't think he stretches the field, as well as some of these other quarterbacks. I think that, which bodes well for Michael Thomas. He's more of an underneath threat slant boy. I think they'll be a good pair if Michael Thomas is even good anymore. We haven't seen him play a real season since, pre-COVID. So
it was like 2018.
Yeah, so jury's still out if he's actually a good receiver anymore. Who knows? But Chris Olave is a downfield threat. Draquan Smith is a downfield threat, and they just drafted what's his name, Rashid Shaheed, and so
I love Rashid.
It's kind of a weird combination because you have a guy like Derek Carr who's not very much a quarterback that's known to stretch the field and air it out, but you have these receivers outside of Michael Thomas who that's what they're known for. So something's got to give, whether Derek Carr adjusts or the receivers have to adjust. Who knows? But I think that they do have a really talented receiving core, so they have that going for them. They have a really good offensive skill set, like you mentioned, with the two running backs in the backfield now, Jawan Johnson. Their line is strong. They're top 12 in the NFL. Their defense is always really solid. They perform better at home. That's one thing they do have going for them is, their home field advantage is next to none in the NFL. You have the Saints right up there with the 12th man or Arrowhead Stadium. So I think that the walk is very easy for the Saints, with their strength of schedule and with their skill position, receivers, running backs, tight ends, etc. They're set up really nice, but I'm not a believer in Derek Carr, so I don't think they get double-digit wins. I don't think Derek Carr is one to push this Saints team to the next level. I think this is more of a deep-rooted issue in the coaching staff with Dennis Allen and the staff he's put together there. I think they're really missing Sean Payton and what he was able to do. And so I just don't. I'm not a big believer in the Saints team, but that's really because I'm a big believer in the Falcons team. So leave it as it may be.
Well, hold on. Before we move on to the Falcons, if we're going to, I'm really offended because you don't have to be Patrick Mahomes to lead a good football team to double-digit wins. And the thing that Derek Carr does really good is that underneath stuff, as well as the fact that the Saints have a very good run game, as you were highlighting by the running backs and the offensive line, that I think it really complements Derek Carr's skill set very well. Now, the only downside of that is I feel like they might not use all of their weapons to the best of their ability, like Olave stretching the field, who I think that's where you want to go because Olave is awesome. But I think that, Jawan Johnson, Taysom Hill, they use a lot. They throw the ball to the running backs a lot. And then slant boys there and stuff over the middle of the field, that's just the way they're going to go. That's just the way they're going to play football. There's nothing wrong with that. So based off that and their schedule, they're going to stick to what they do best and what fits their players the best. And I think they'll get 10. I wasn't saying they're getting 13. I think they get 10.
Okay, that's fair. It's funny because I still have not adjusted to the new like the extra game that we have.
Yeah.
10 wins. It's really just the same as 9 wins as just a few short years ago. So I'm still having adjusting to that, but I see your point. I can't say anything nice about the Saints. I do think there's an easy road for them to get to 10 wins. So they have a good shot to easily win this division. Obviously, they're favored to win the division. But I am high on the Falcons. My Dirty Birds are coming back. I know that Desmond Ridder is not the shiniest toy. He's not the most attractive quarterback in the league. He's not the guy who's going to make these crazy throws, but he's definitely better than Mariota. And so we saw what the Falcons did last year with Mariota, who only threw the ball 20 times per game, if that. And then we have, obviously we have Drake London and Kyle Pitts, and then now we have Bijan Robinson, and add him to the stable of running backs that the Falcons have. And I think that this is going to be a really, really solid offense that can control games. And I think on top of that, the Falcons loaded up on defense. I mean, they have Calais Campbell. They have A.J. Terrell, who's, they drafted a few short years ago. They have Grady Jarrett. They got Bud Dupree now from the Titans. They have Lorenzo Carter. They have Grant Ritchie. They traded for Jeff Okudah. So it's not like this elite defense, but I mean, it's much better than what they've had in the past. And I think that if they can hold the fort down against their division, a division that has Derek Carr, rookie Bryce Young, and one of Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask playing quarterback, dude, 8.5 wins, easy. Now, I will say this. I was doing some research on the Falcons. This year is the highest win total since 2019 that the Falcons have had when they had 8.5 wins as well. And then the last time that they cleared their win total, their consensus Vegas win total, is 2017, the year of the Super Bowl. So um, this is kind of a new feel for Falcons fans. I think that there's a lot of optimism around this team where in the past there has not been. So I think that Vegas is actually, they're giving them 8.5 wins, but they may be still a little lower on the Falcons than what everybody should be. I think that they're a 9.5 win, 10.5 win team in this division. I think they're better than the Saints. I think their roster is better than the Saints right now on the defensive side of the ball. It's crazy to say because the Saints have historically always had the better defense throughout the entirety of the past decade. So Falcons are on the up and up. I really love what Arthur Smith is doing. Now, what's it going to take for the Falcons to hit the over? It's Desmond Ritter's play and the consistency of the defense. We have not seen a consistent defense in years, and we're kind of banking on Desmond Ridder to be slightly better than mediocre. Now, if he's mediocre or if he plays to Mariota's level, then the Falcons are in deep shit pretty much. But it's kind of hard to – I can't really imagine a world in where Desmond Ridder is not better than Mariota. Does that make sense?
No, I agree with you. I also think that it doesn't take a fantastic quarterback to run this offense to be able to get wins, which is a great problem to have because if you do have a really good quarterback, well, then you're pretty much set. But no, I agree with you that I'm really high on the Falcons also. I was going to have the Falcons and the Saints tied in my win totals, but I felt like I had to have one surpassing the other for when we talk about who's going to win the division. So I've got them at 9, still going over 8.5. But, the same thing as the Saints, man. The schedule is just so easy. It's just going to be like I'm looking at these teams. I'm going from, I guess week 18. They play each other, which if you want to watch a slow-paced, nasty football game, then watch the Falcons and the Saints play this year.
They used to be some of the most exciting games, when Drew Brees and prime Matt Ryan were going at it.
Different time.
I miss that. But now we have Derek Carr and Desmond Ridder.
I'll just kind of list some teams that they play. Panthers, Packers, Lions, Jags, Texans, Commanders, Bucks, Titans, Vikings, Cardinals.
Yeah.
Colts, Bears.
They should have 6 wins by November at least.
They could easily clear double. Easily. Yeah. I think. I really do think so. I'm not sure how much of a turnaround the defense is going to have in 1 year with all those new players that they picked up, but it will be better.
Yeah. So their hardest games, it's either going to be Jacksonville and London, or it's going to be New York Jets in New York. Mm-hmm. And let's be real.
They could win either one of those games.
Yeah, if that's your worst game on the schedule, that's something. And then same for the Saints. They have like a similar outlook there. They're playing the same exact schedule, same exact division, a few easy non-conference, non-division games out. But, come on. Both of these teams definitely upgraded in the offseason. They're not getting worse than they were last year.
No.
So I think we can use last year as a good baseline to what to expect this year, unless, Desmond Ridder absolutely implodes or Derek Carr loses his shit. So
they both won 7 games last year. So I think that they would both exceed 7 for sure. But I think they could easily both get to double digits.
They should definitely own this conference.
Oh, yeah.
I have a lot of high expectations for Bryce Young, but not high to the point where I think that they have a chance to make a run for the division. I think their roster still needs some work. They do have a solid offensive unit. Defense or offensive line is okay. We talk about wide receiver core. They signed Adam Thielen, who's really old now. They signed DJ Chark, who may still have a little bit in the tank.
Nah, I don't think so.
but they drafted Jonathan Mingo, which I think is a big sleeper for next year. I think he's going to really outperform his projections, and I think he's got some fun props that you should look into, but still not enough for me to be like wowed by this Panthers offense. I think Bryce Young's going to really have to get acclimated to the NFL, and the defense is just not there. There's hardly anybody on this defense, man. So 7.5 wins is going to be tough. I don't. If you ask me, I don't think that. I think they go 0-2 against both the Saints and the Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
And with that outcome, I can't be confident in them winning 8 games. I think, seeing those as 4 losses, I think they go 1-1 with the Bucs, considering the Bucs still have an okay defense. There's not a lot to. I don't know. I just can't convince myself to seeing the Panthers have 8 or 9 wins. It's interesting because I'm really high on Bryce Young. I think he'll actually be a really good player in the NFL, but 8 wins, I'm not. I'm pretty low on the confidence scale there. What about you?
Well, there's 2 pretty big factors here that are both atrocious, and it's the O-line and the defense. Like, I mean, if you want a list of a bunch of, like, no-name players, like, just look up this roster. I'm looking at it right now, and there's a million people I've never heard of before in my life. But, they don't have anything really going for them on the wide receiver side, like you were saying. Did they get Hayden Hurst? Did I make that up?
I think they still have Ian Thomas. And they did sign Miles Sanders, but what's he going to do for this offense?
Well, he's not going to do anything because they can't block in front of him.
Right.
They did sign Hayden Hurst.
Okay.
So Mingo and Hurst are going to be pretty much the only receiving options. That Miles Sanders running behind a bad offensive line. Bryce Young really doesn't have a chance here, as well as the fact that they're not even going to be in games because their defense is so shitty. So they're definitely not clearing 7.5. Originally, I'm like talking about them so bad now. Originally, I had them up at 7 wins, but I'm looking at it now and I'm like, there's pretty much no way. So I think this is a 5 or 6 win team. If that. Whoa. Excuse me. That was a video Hudson sent me earlier. Anyway. I've got them at 5 or 6. They're definitely going under.
That brings me to my next team. This one they're kind of polarizing in a way because the Bucs, they still have some of the same pieces they have from a former Super Bowl team, but they're missing Tom Brady, who was probably one of, the main reasons they got there in the first place. Do you think that Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask, but assuming it's Baker Mayfield, will be able to pull his weight and make this offense, halfway decent again?
No. They should be done with Baker. They should give Trask a chance, to be honest with you. Because every time I think Baker's comes out and is going to be better on a different team, he's the same old guy.
So would you, if you're the Bucs, theoretically, if you're the general manager, do you tank? Do you tank for like Caleb Williams or a Drake May?
I don't think it's going to be that hard for them to tank because I still don't think they're going to be able to score. Because they still have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but they got to have someone to get it to them. And their O-line is still all right, but it's a lot worse than what it was when Brady was taking to the Super Bowl.
They drafted Cody Mock. Their offensive line is elite now.
He's a rookie, man. I'm telling you.
It's elite.
Everyone needs to go look him up.
I mean, they still have Ryan Jensen and Tristan Wirfs leading that front. So still, no matter who else is on there, that's a top tier offensive line with those pieces alone. So it's just crazy to look at this team because, you're right. They do have arguably one of the best pass catching cores in the NFL with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and, now it's Russell Gage, but they did have a few more. And their defense is still top tier. I mean, Vita Vea, they drafted a new defensive tackle in Khalid Kancey, Devin White, Levante David, Shaquille Barrett. I mean, dude, that front is still kind of nasty.
Is the defense going to score points?
Maybe.
They're going to score more points than the other team's offense?
That I cannot be for certain, but I mean, let's say the Bucks play calling is absolutely out of its mind, and all he needs is a game manager in there. Let's say Kyle Trask gets in there and he's a little better than Baker Mayfield. What's stopping them from being halfway decent? I mean, their schedule is meh. I mean, it's kind of hard. They play obviously the rest of the NFC North, but let's look at their outside. They do have the Vikings. I think they're very beatable, but it's at the Vikings, so maybe not. They have Chicago. They have Philly. Philly's going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit, that's going to be tough, but they get them at home. They do have Buffalo. That's kind of tough. And they have San Francisco, Green Bay, winnable.
Oh, I don't know about that actually. We could talk about that another time, but
but I'm just saying. I think
have a good.
I think 6.5 wins isn't like as crazy for Bucks as some people give them. I think they're, if you look at some of these other teams, like for instance the Titans, they don't have to have necessarily a better offense. They can probably score 14 points, and if their defense just does their job against this abysmal Titans offense, then that's a win.
But they're going to beat the Titans. I'll run you down some wins here. Well, actually, potential wins. So potential wins: Bears. I just missed it. Texans, Titans, Colts, Panthers at home. I guess Panthers away. What's that at? 6? I'm not saying they win all those. But I mean, they could come out. Go ahead.
Do you think they could steal,
Yes, probably. But they're also going to lose one they definitely shouldn't lose. You know how it goes.
Sure.
They even out.
I guess it really comes down to is like, if you're a believer in either Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask, then you bet the over. If you're not, and you bet the under. As simple as that. Because they have everything else. We'll leave it at that. Is that a fair assessment? They have everything else to be a good team.
Yeah,
if a team that wins 7 or more games.
If Sam Darnold was their quarterback, I could think they could clear 6.5.
Ooh, that's an interesting point. So if you think the Bucks traded for somebody, even just
if the Bucks had I don't even know.
What if the Bucks traded for Trey Lance?
See, then I have no idea because we've never seen Trey Lance in a real football game.
That's true.
We don't know. But no,
I don't know.
They're a quarterback away. But I mean, they just lost. They just lost the best quarterback.
That's true. That's true, and they did struggle with him last year. But I think his mind was in a bit of a funk. So I think they could have been a great team last year. But yeah, I think that's a great way to put the Bucks. Is if you're a believer, sure, yeah, 7 wins or more is easily in sight. But if you're not a believer, then they're going to struggle. So,
do you think Thomas kissed his son today?
Probably. If he's seen him, I don't know if he has custody.
He'll find a way.
Yeah, money talks. Brendan, who wins the NFC North this year?
Saints.
No.
Falcons coming second.
No. Dirty Birds all the way, dude. Plus 240 odds. Take it. Take it. The Falcons are a better team. They have a better defense, and they will have a better offense.
I don't encourage gambling.
First.
I don't encourage gambling. Go buy a plot of land. It's a lot better than gambling. It always appreciates. Just saying.
Or you could gamble that money to buy a bigger plot of land.
That's true.
Falcons
there you have it.
all the way. You have it. You heard it here first. Falcons win the NFC South. We appreciate you guys listening. Brendan, thanks for stopping in. We'll be back here next week.
See you, champ.